We should.
Okay, so we're continuing to get deeper into what they call spooky season, I guess. It's
Yay!
what, October 8th. And so we have all of our Halloween decorations up. Do you guys, Kim, have
Yes,
that down now?
we do. I know Owen wishes we had more, but also like I'm not gonna be here for like half of October. And so I'm just like, I don't care that
Yeah.
much. So, but we do, we've got our stuff out.
We put the final touches. I mean, you saw on Facebook probably. We got the Michael Myers up. That's like the
Yeah.
final thing for me. And it's funny because I keep forgetting how much Leia, our dog, hates that. Like she walks by the front door and is like constantly growling. And I'm like, no, it's not real, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, I'm gonna have to see how the next week goes. I might have to put it in the garage until Halloween night because she's like constantly, you
Which is
know.
good to know that if ever
Yeah.
there was an actual serial killer trying to come get you guys, she's got it covered.
But I keep seeing it's so funny. I keep seeing these families like walking down the street, and these little kids look and they like pause and they kind of like stop moving. And the parents think it's amazing. Like they're just like smiling and laughing. But yeah, but it's having the intended effect, which is good to see.
Yes,
So
I have to be careful at some stores. Like Owen wants to look at Halloween decorations, but then if it gets a little too scary and I won't know, he doesn't tell me. He'll just like freak out and be like, "I can't do it. I can't look." And I'm like, "What is it? I don't even." So, and I think I told you maybe he saw the poster for the new Exorcist movie at Birkdale. It was just
okay,
outside the theater. He just saw the poster
right,
and was
yeah,
terrified. He would not walk by the theater again that entire night.
yeah. And I mean, how old is Owen? He's like 4, 5.
5.
He's 5.
He'll be 6
Yeah,
in a
I
few
mean,
months. Yeah.
but I mean, even then at that age, like that's pretty terrifying, right? Like that's pretty scary. So yeah,
Yeah, which is like kind of funny, but not that like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I saw some of these movies when I was his age. Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
Henry just watched Hunger Games. He's watched the first 2 Hunger Games movies with Erica, and after the second one, he was kind of like, "I'm gonna take a little break from this." It's not that they're like scary, but like there's some intense stuff
But that's
in
like
those.
a disturbing reality. I mean, that's not like horror. It's almost worse because it's
Right?
not campy. You can't like you couldn't say that's not real. That could be very real. So yeah,
Yeah.
that could be traumatic.
Well, so we have watched Totally Killer, which
Totally.
I saw the ads for this a while back. It's on Prime Video, and I was pretty excited about it and watched it.
Yeah.
And we've been texting kind of our thoughts about it. So, what would you say from the outset? Would you say this movie is Totally Killer? Is that how you would just? Do you think it's a good title for it and everything?
I do. And I know like when we first watched the trailer, my thought fear was all the best parts were already shown like in the trailer. And
Yeah.
I do think on some level that was a little true that a lot of like the jokes that I liked were in the trailer, but I still laughed at them in the movie. So I didn't but
Yeah.
I wasn't bothered by it, but I think and I don't know how they could have done this. I feel like I went into it not knowing was this going to be a horror or a comedy or a comedy horror or
Yeah.
like which direction were we going to go in? And I guess really maybe that was my mistake because if you think about the title Totally Killer, like could it really have been anything other than a sort of campy comedy about like stereotypical 80s horror movies?
I mean, to me, it's both, obviously, but I think it is definitely more a comedy than a horror movie. I would say
Yeah.
that's my kind of
And
take.
I
Like,
guess
there's
like there's stabbing and there's
yeah,
blood.
for sure.
And so, but that to me, that's not scary. And so
To
maybe
me,
someone
this was
would say
like
it is.
it's like someone had this idea of like, what if we did something kind of like Scream, but we added time travel, set it in the '80s, and just tried to make it funny. Like, I mean, that kind of is sort of what it is to me, like in a nutshell. I mean, there's more to it than that, maybe, but I don't know. Because you're the Scream
It is.
expert, so I don't know what you would say about that.
Well, and she makes the comment at one point about Scream,
Yeah,
which I liked because I like most of the franchise. But it also felt a little out of place because I felt like they were making so many references to 80s horror movies or before that
yeah.
like referencing something that they hadn't even seen yet felt a little I don't know. I didn't love that reference as much. Like keep it in the 80s, keep it classic. Don't go into the 90s. It's make
And
it
there were
different.
definitely, this is not like unexpected, but there were definitely shades of Back to the Future, right? Like kind of woven
I
into
would
it as
say it
well.
was like the majority of it felt like Back to the Future for me, which is why I was glad that they did reference it a bunch of
Yeah,
times because then it
yeah,
felt
pretty
like,
heavily.
yeah, like you know what you're doing here.
I
It
mean,
felt, yeah.
Like, I mean, that piece of the movie when the main character, whose name I'm already forgetting, Jamie, yeah, Jamie. When Jamie is in the 80s, it's like I have to fix up my parents. So basically, but also not too soon. Like
Right. I
that's
have
the
to make
whole.
sure my parents end up together, but not now, which this is jumping ahead and spoiler alert and all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
I did like that they did all, which I thought it was cool the way that they showed how they were still going to get together. It was just under different circumstances now.
Right.
And I liked that. And I figured that would happen. That wasn't
And
a
even,
shock.
and I know I'm jumping everywhere here, but even the ending was kind of Back to the Future ish, where it's like things have changed, but not completely. Like she still exists and all of that
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Which is, I will say, I appreciate, because when she gets the photos, the printout of
Right.
her after she's in the time machine, and my first thought was, just like the picture Marty McFly had, she's going to see herself start disappearing.
That's exactly what I thought was going to happen.
Yes, I'm like, okay, duh, which I'm fine with because I know Back to the Future. I'm like, cool, great, grand. But that's not what happened. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And when the girl was like, no, that's where Back to the Future got it wrong. Like, you wouldn't
Yeah.
disappear. You would still go back, but you just wouldn't exist to anybody, which is like,
So,
okay.
so I guess in a nutshell, before we get too much further, just really quickly the plot. Like, it's
Mhm.
basically it's again a lot of similarities to me when it comes to Scream, but basically it's set in 2023 when it starts out. This character Jamie, her mom survived a set of stabbings, or was sort of close to that in
Yes. All her
1987.
best friends were stabbed, basically.
Right, all of her best friends were stabbed, and they were
Well,
stabbed
you don't
16
realize they were
times.
best friends at the time. You find that out later, but yes.
Yeah, they were stabbed 16 times, I guess, because it was their sweet 16 birthday or whatever is sort of
Yeah.
the connection there. And they never really find the killer. The person just disappears. But the mom has
Yeah.
a note. Eventually, you find out, well, sort of a note that
Yeah.
says, like, one day you will be next, or something like that. And so, but she is always sort of on high alert, kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis in the Halloween 2018 reboot, right? There's a lot of
Yes.
similarities. Like, oh, you didn't think I was going to be prepared, kind of thing, to
I
that.
loved that sequence when
Yeah.
she was kicking his ass, because that, to me, that is exactly what, if all my friends were killed when I was in high school, like, I would either become a recluse like Jamie Lee Curtis, or
Yeah.
go through self-defense training and have like guns hidden all over my house, but less like a crazy person like Jamie
So
Lee
would you be
Curtis.
more like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween H2O, or Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween 2018?
I would probably be more like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween H2O.
I think you would too. That would be my
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
that's the Jamie Lee Curtis I choose to identify with.
well, so okay, but so all this happens in 2023, and then the killer shows back up and kills Jamie's mom,
Yes.
basically, at the start of the
Yes.
movie.
Yes.
All the while, she has a best friend who is dabbling in time travel. She's building a time machine out of a photo booth, I think
For
it
her
was.
science fair project.
Yeah, the science fair project, right? No big deal. Which, like, of course, part of me being a huge sci-fi nerd is like, oh, they don't really go into any kind of depth with that. I keep thinking of like the DeLorean, which, there's a little bit more detail with that kind of thing. But at the same time, like, you can't take it that seriously with a movie like this, I don't think.
Yeah,
But,
and that's like Matt was saying that he really liked the movie, and he said he liked that was just so accepted casually among the people that knew her. Like, yeah, she's making a time machine. Okay, cool.
right.
Next.
Yeah.
Like, and you're
Yeah.
right. And I think if you try to justify it too much, then we focus on that, and then you're like, everything, you lose the suspension of disbelief for everything else.
Yeah. So, and there's sort of this carnival area in town that I guess has been there for
Boardwalk.
the boardwalk. That's right.
Millie's
The boardwalk has been there for decades. But basically, when they're in the present toward the beginning of the film, the killer tracks down the daughter, Jamie, and is trying to get her. She ends up in the photo booth time machine. The control panel gets stabbed, and that sort of causes it to finally work correctly. Is, I guess, because they need another metal conductor, is sort of the pseudoscience explanation that they throw in there. But then she ends up in 1987, and she learns a lot of things about her mom, really both of her parents, that she didn't know before. And that, again, that's where all the parallels to me with Back to the Future start, where it's like the whole scene where Marty's in the car with his mom, and he's like, "You drink, you smoke," like just the whole thing, all of that. So, which I'm glossing over a lot that happens after that, and we can get more deep into it. But that's kind of the plot in a nutshell, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and because she ultimately wants to figure out either who the killer is, or somehow stop it so that her mother doesn't die. And so she's trying to, she tells everyone she's psychic because she knows what's going to happen. But then she can't, she's realizing as she's trying to change it, it is changing how the things happen. Like a
Yeah.
girl dies in a different spot and they die in a different order. And then at one point, which I like, that at some point it becomes like, I have no idea what's going to happen now. And we all just have to be careful because we could all be next. Like
Yeah.
nobody knows.
So one thing that I found really, I don't know, like, and I think it was played for comedy, of course, but like one thing that was interesting to me is it seemed like everyone in the 80s was really stupid. I mean, like, just couldn't understand anything or process anything. And I know there was a lot of like, obviously kind of callbacks to like, wow, we've evolved a lot as a society. Like, we wouldn't do this type of thing now, that kind of stuff. But it just seemed like everyone was really stupid. Like, did you kind of get that vibe? It was weird.
I wouldn't say stupid. I would say basic because I feel like, or very one dimensional because I like, and
Right.
which I felt like goes with the whole like we're playing on the stereotypes and not giving them up all of these layers because like the person who ultimately really invented this time machine was the girl's mother in 1987, her
That's
best
true.
friend's
Yep.
mom. So she
Yeah.
connects with her, and I did like that she was connecting with all these people that she interacted with in 2023. And I think
Yeah.
I didn't mind the one dimensionality of it all because I thought it was a really cute, interesting commentary on like who you are when you're 17 versus who you become when you're 40. And like,
It's true. Yeah, and it worked for the purposes of comedy also, right? I mean, I
yeah,
think that was part of it too. Like, they had to use that word basic to make some of the comedic beats work. But I was texting you, like, to me, this, from a comedy point of view, it was very up and down. Like, some stuff I thought was hilarious. Like that scene closer to the end where they're in the like haunted house and the killer shows up and the girl is being stabbed multiple times and she's pushing the whistle button or like the thing, and it's just constantly beeping.
yes,
Obviously, she can't do it. That was like really good, kind of deadpan, no pun intended, deadpan type of comedy, right? Happening there.
yes.
But then, and I told you, like, the one character who I think it ended up being the principal. I can't remember the one who was the jock. Was he the coach or
Yeah,
the principal
he
or
was the
somebody?
coach in the original
That's
2023, and
right.
then he becomes the school principal in the altered 2023.
He's just like constantly like grabbing his groin and like burping and doing things, and I'm like, it's like I get low, like look, I totally appreciate lowbrow humor. Like Dumb and Dumber is one of my favorite movies of all time, but like for whatever reason, this like I don't know why, like sometimes it just didn't work for me 100%. Some of that stuff, but I don't know, you
And
know.
it didn't bother me as much, I think, because very early on I accepted that like they were going to play into those caricatures a lot, and I didn't have an issue with that because I mean,
Yeah,
I know that that's not how anyone really behaves, and so I kind of accept because I do think it was really about like that progression as like she's constantly telling them you can't say that to people or you that's not okay for you to say that and which I liked. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie.
well, and I love that actress. I've got her information. Kiernan Shipka, I guess is her name, the one that plays Jamie. Like, I think
Yeah.
she was great as a foil to basically everyone in the 80s, like just as like
Yes.
a modern sensibility of like, whoa, like what is this? Which,
Yeah.
and I'm sure, obviously I was very young in the 80s, but I'm sure a lot of that probably was accurate in terms of just how people did things and said things and
I
all of
know.
that kind of stuff. And I mean, some of it was timely because we were talking, just texting about like the high school mascot that was there, which was
Yes.
basically, I mean, like, it's basically the Cleveland Indians, like, which are no longer a
Yes.
thing, but, like, that's what it was, essentially, right? I mean,
Yes.
even in the town that close to where I grew up, the minor league baseball team was the Kinston Indians, and they eventually changed the name, so now it's, like, the Wood Ducks or whatever, but, like, it's like the Washington football team, like, that changed over time too, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, there was a lot of that stuff, which I think that did work well in fits and starts. Now, thinking about it from like a horror movie perspective, like what would be kind of your take on that? Would you say that you see it as like a good horror film or not as much?
I like it, and this is where it does start to get into that Scream style.
Hmm.
It's very whodunit. Who is the
Yeah.
person in the
Yep.
mask? I the mask is very specific, and I like not that I need you to explain a mask. It's just when you see masks like Ghostface and Michael Myers that are a little more like um I don't even know the word.
Like
Like
a blank slate kind of thing.
yes, then
Yeah.
and I don't care as much. But when it's
Right.
something very specific, I would have liked to have known why that was the choice?
I'm probably wrong here, but when I saw it, the first thing I thought of was Max Headroom. Do you know anything about Max Headroom? That was like a very popular late 80s kind of thing where it was like this weird I don't even know how to describe it. I'll have to send you a link to it, but it was like this MTV, I think it was on MTV at the time, but it was this like weird kind of techno CGI guy who would do like news headlines. It was a very like niche thing from that time era, but I'll send you a link to it so you can see it because it looks very like the hair looked like that and
Okay.
everything. But so I don't know if
And
that's what it was supposed to be, but I don't know.
maybe, I guess for the people like me who were born after 87 and who have no
So you
concept.
mean the people that are younger than me?
Yeah,
Is that what I'm hearing, Kim? I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
semantics.
Yeah.
Just some reference in the film
Yeah.
somewhere, somehow, and maybe there was and I missed it, but I don't think that there was. But
So, well,
I go ahead.
nope, sorry. I totally interrupted. That was so rude of me. You continue. Go
You
ahead. Yeah.
I was petering off. I didn't have any.
So,
I was
okay.
going to transition into something else, but go ahead.
Well, since you brought up the whodunit piece, I was just
Yes,
curious if you were
yes.
able to figure it out. Were you able to figure it out?
That's where I was going next.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I did figure out part of it
Me
because
too. Me too.
there are 2 killers. Well, I
Right.
guess I knew before it was revealed who it was, or I at least had a very strong inkling who it was. I was not shocked either time. I
Okay.
I pretty much
This-
called it before it
So
happened.
with the first reveal in 1987 in
That
the
one I really knew.
I knew that's the one where I was like, I'm reasonably sure it's this person, and
Yes.
it was that
And the
person.
moment I knew is when he said he took karate for 8 years.
Right.
And
Because
for some
yes, and we talked about this with our Scream reviews when we went through this, or I talked about it, just like the whole idea of like whenever these people are trying to kill somebody, these killers, they somehow the people that are the victims are always evading them, like the killer's crashing into a thing, or the people, but he manages to survive like a lot of crazy stuff, right? Like getting
and
hit
that
with
was
things.
kind of Matt's gripe. He's like, "Why do these killers, they get punched, why don't they ever scream or groan in pain?" And I
Yeah,
don't have the answer to that, but
right.
yeah, that I knew by process of kind of elimination, like who was in the area or who was aware. And then once he kind of made the comment about karate, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah."
yeah.
And I knew the girl's brother was a red herring as soon as you saw him scribbling in his notebook that everyone should die. Like,
Was it Damon? I guess was his
yes,
name or something. Yeah,
Damon.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
appreciate that he had a ton of NES games in the back of his van or whatever, all the Nintendo
Okay.
stuff that was back there.
Sure.
But yeah, yeah. So all the video games. So yeah, so I think from a horror movie whodunit perspective, ultimately it worked out pretty well, in my opinion. Like, I mean, I think I told you last night, I kind of started dozing off about halfway through it, and I was like, I just got to finish watching it tomorrow. And it wasn't anything to do with the movie. I was just tired and it was late. And I had just gotten back from seeing a movie in a theater. So I was like doing back-to-back movies that night. But anyway, the
Yes.
first half of it, I thought like, it's fine, but I'm not like in love with it. And I thought the way it ended was pretty good. Like I felt like they wrapped
Yeah.
well, like it was a solid conclusion to it, and I was mostly entertained. I actually thought it got funnier the longer it went on. Like at first, I felt a little bit tired by it, but I don't know. It
No,
worked
I
for me.
agree. And because I think once all of those 87 decade characters got involved and got
Yeah,
to really have these moments, like the humor to me did increase because like the girl talking about walking over to the house of horrors, just going to get a casual BJ, just going to a
yeah,
casual beach. Okay. Like
yeah.
clearly nobody that I ever knew talked like that. But
Right,
like,
right.
I don't think but like to me, that's hilarious that that's
Yeah,
how you would portray this girl and kind of empowering, honestly, if you really wanted to analyze it. But
yeah.
I do think it got funnier. And then Matt even kind of called that he thought it was going to be 2 different killers.
Mm.
And then I was like, yeah. And I like, and it makes total sense why too. Like I thought it was a really clear justification on how this murder spanned 2 totally different decades, and it was for 2 totally different reasons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I thought that the caricatures of horror movie characters that we got ultimately, like some of the stuff you were just talking about, and just how they behaved and spoke, like I thought that was pretty funny and it worked. So
Yes.
Overall, like, yeah, it's a solid movie. Now, and I mentioned this to you when we were texting. I do think though, like, it was hard for me not to compare it to other movies that I really love that are, I would say, in this same type of genre, which is kind of the horror comedy, modern teen horror comedy, which would be like The Babysitter and even
Mhm.
Ready or Not, which like Ready or Not for me is like
Still have not
up
seen. I
there.
know. I have to
That
see
that
that.
you'll I think you'll love that movie when you see it. It's just so well made. So to me, The Babysitter and Ready or Not are like really good. And I even like, did you see the second Babysitter, Killer Queen?
No, I did not end up watching
I
that
like
yet.
that one too. It's not as good as the first, but I did
Yeah.
like it a lot.
Okay.
But to me, this is in that same vein. Maybe not quite as good, but definitely entertaining enough. Like, I think if
Oh,
people are
yeah.
looking for kind of like a let's just chill out and watch a dumb horror movie, horror comedy, like in the Halloween season type of thing, like totally that you could do. I see I use totally there. Totally, you could do a lot worse than what you get with this movie, I would say.
And like, I wouldn't call it a dumb horror movie. Like when I
Yeah,
think, that's when I think of like Velocipaster or those
that was
movies
transcendent, Kim.
where like they, to me, Totally Killer is smart in its commentary, and the humor is more lowbrow, and it's very self-aware, and it's not taking itself too seriously in that sense. So I don't put it in like the dumb horror movie category, because I don't like, it's not a B movie to me.
No, it's not. No,
It's
for
just
sure.
not a scary movie.
Yeah, I think the only honestly, besides some of the like humor beats not fully working for me personally, which everybody's gonna have a different take on that. I think the only thing that I would complain about a little bit was just the directing. Like, there were times where I just to me it felt a little bit bland, like the camera work, not the acting. The acting was fine, but just the.
No, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
But I mean, I guess at the same time, like I shouldn't expect, like Spielbergish kind of camera work with this sort of thing. I mean that level of like cinematography, or you know what I mean, that framing. But
Yeah.
I don't know. There were just times where I was like, I don't know, like just the way they set it up, it felt, I don't want to say cheap, but it just didn't feel, I don't know, as like well made as some other movies I've seen, if that makes sense. But
No, I do.
yeah,
I totally understand what you're saying. That's not something that like when it's there, I acknowledge it and I appreciate it. Like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like the directing is amazing. But when it's not
yeah,
there, I don't see it as much.
right.
Like it does. It's not for me. It's more about like the writing and the acting. That's
It's
always what's
not a
going to be.
distraction for you, basically, is what
Yeah,
kind of what you're
exactly.
right. Yeah.
Yes.
So
But I
cool.
definitely think
Well,
it's worth watching. Like we wanted to
yeah.
watch a scary movie, and we that's not what we got, but we were still very happy that we watched it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it almost aligned with what was that? You remember those three movies that came out? I think last Halloween on Netflix that were like set in different decades. It was
Yes,
like 19.
1984.
I think it was very
Fear
similar to that.
Street.
Like, I
Fear
thought there were
Street.
some similarities there, a little bit, kind of going on, just
Yes.
tonally a little bit at
Yeah.
times. But anyway, yeah, like I had fun watching it, like for sure. Like it didn't feel like a waste of an hour and 46 minutes, which that's the worst. Like whenever we watched what it was, Jeepers Creepers Reborn, I was like, I could have done without having seen that movie.
And
But
that's
like,
like a dumb horror movie. That would be my definition of a dumb horror
yeah.
movie.
But the
Yeah.
thing is, like, you never know till you watch something, and like I kind of want to give things a fair shake if I'm at least mildly interested in it. Like my problem sometimes is I lean a little too much onto what critics have to say about it before watching it. But then you watch it and you're like, oh, this is totally fine. I don't know why people are,
And I
dogging it
never
for
look at
it.
anything anybody says because I don't care. And
Yeah,
so like
and that's
I
right. I mean, I
usually
think, yeah,
get that from you. You'll be like, "Oh yeah, it was well received," or it wasn't. Like we were talking about the new Exorcist movie, and you're like,
yeah.
"People say it's not very good." I had no interest in seeing that movie until I saw a trailer for it yesterday that I hadn't seen before, and I was like, "Oh, now I'm actually a little interested in this movie." Despite knowing that maybe it didn't get good reviews, I don't think that would color my experience with it.
And I didn't know with that movie that it was directed by David Gordon Green. I had no idea the new Exorcist movie
I
is.
didn't know that. I just recognized the actors in it from
Yeah,
different
which I
things, and I
mean,
wrote
you know David Gordon Green, right? Like I
I
know we've talked
don't
about. He said
know.
he directed all three of the new Halloween movies, like Halloween, Halloween 1.
Oh, okay.
So like he's really, it's interesting because he's getting like a shot at all these like classic franchises. Like he did Halloween, now he's doing The Exorcist. It's like I don't know what's next at this point, but anyway,
Yeah.
yeah,
They should lay off probably.
Probably. I did see an article not long ago though that apparently they being like studio executives are trying to figure out how to reboot Halloween, and I'm like,
Well, I don't
so
know what. Okay.
I know, yeah, like or how basically how to like bring it back or like create like I don't know if it's like literally starting from scratch or like making a new sequel pretending things didn't happen. Like I don't know what they're gonna do at this point, but I don't know.
Can we just stop?
Yeah, and like the thing is, like again, the original is my favorite horror movie of all time, and I'm like, let's just be done because,
Yeah.
like, just leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. There.
Speaking
That's what, like,
of,
I still want to see the latest Saw movie as
yeah,
well.
yeah, which that did get good reviews. I
Did
think
it?
I told you
Okay.
that,
I don't
but
even
yeah,
know. I don't even know. I
yeah.
still want to see it.
And I think one of the videos that I'm gonna make soon, and you're welcome to be a part of this video if you want to, but I'm gonna rewatch Halloween Ends because I haven't seen it since it came out last year, and just see
Okay.
kind of how it holds up for me because
I did watch it again. I watched
yeah,
it like a few weeks ago. I think I told you because I told you I skipped
yeah,
the opening scene.
right, because
And
it's
I really,
traumatic. Like
it's very traumatic for me to watch as a parent.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
I know what happens in the scene. I just don't need to see it again.
I will say, having seen that, did you watch it in theaters or just wait for it
No,
when it
we
was?
watched it at home.
I remember watching it in theaters. I think it was my buddy Brandon went to see it with me. We were like, holy crap. Like, I mean, it is like that first scene is like, you
That's
do not
rough.
expect that at all.
No, and it upsets me on a visceral level, and like,
Yeah.
and I'm not mad about that necessarily. But I really enjoyed watching it again. For me, it absolutely held up.
So I mean, you remember, like I was pretty disappointed in it for a couple of reasons. So like, I'm just curious to see going back if I feel differently about it now. Like,
Like, I would almost say that I might like Halloween Ends better than Halloween Kills.
do you like it better than Halloween 2018? I'm
I
asking the
might.
hard hitting questions here, Kim.
I might though, because and it's hard to say because like Halloween 2018 sets everything up. Like it wouldn't even exist
Right.
without that. But I always took issue with Halloween 2018 because I really like Halloween H2O. And I
Yeah, I
don't
do
like that
too.
they ignored that in this.
So I have one. I want to see if you can guess this. I bet you can. I have one issue with Halloween H2O, just one. Otherwise, I really love that movie. What do you think my one issue is with that movie?
I mean, I don't know, and this is a lot of pressure. I
So
don't I
basically,
don't
I hate the mask in that movie. The design of the mask, like it just
know.
looks so terrible compared to the original mask. Like if you put them side by side to me, like I don't know why they changed it and made it look different
I
for
don't know that it
H2O.
ever like registered with me
It
that
just
it
in
looked.
the hair in it. It looks like he has Kramer hair in it. Like
Yeah,
it's
that
weird.
I can definitely attest to that. But I
Are you
love
googling it now or
Halloween
looking it up?
H2O. Yeah, I'm just gonna look really quick at. Oh yeah,
It's just I
yeah.
don't know why. There's just something about the design of it that I'm like, I don't know. It just looks
No,
rough.
that is pretty bad. It's pretty
Yeah.
bad. It is.
So are we doing trick or treat next? Is that our next?
We definitely could because I'm gonna watch it at some point. I just don't
Okay.
know when I will do that.
You've got a lot. Like you're leaving to go out of town for a while coming up, right? Like,
I am, and I can watch movies like while I'm in Florida. I'm not
yeah,
like
you're
without.
not cut off from all internet
No, I
access
always
and
watch something to like fall asleep because I
yeah.
have like I'll be sleeping in my own room and stuff. But I would watch Carrie, but I wouldn't. I
Okay.
don't know that I'd
We can
watch
watch
Trick or Treat.
we can do that. So the original Carrie?
Yeah, I mean, yes, which I wouldn't have to rewatch
'Cause I
that.
know
I've
we
seen
talked about
it so
that
many
before. Yeah. So
times.
you want to make we can do that next. You want to make that the next one?
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen
Cool.
it so many times.
It's probably been 15 years since I've seen that
Oh my
movie. So I
god.
get it. It's been a long time. Yeah.
So good. I love it. I love that movie. It's
Well,
such a good
we'll
anti-bullying campaign.
that's always good. And it'll
And
be actually,
also there's the second one. There's another, The Rage Carrie 2 or Carrie 2 The Rage, whatever, which I've
so
seen.
what we could do. So here's an idea. We
Okay.
could review both of them, or we could do a review where we compare the original Carrie with the remake and do like a double review comparison kind of thing. Like, or we could just do Carrie 1 and just be that can be the review. I don't care. Either way, what do you think?
I don't really want to watch the remake, to be
That
honest.
tells me all I need to know then. That's good.
Not
Okay.
that it was, I just love the original so much that like you
Yeah.
don't need to remake it.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about Carrie.
Okay. Cool. We will carry
Yes.
on with
Although
Carrie.
although we should have saved it for like prom season, but that's okay.
That's true. Well, maybe during prom season, we could watch Carrie 2 or something. Like, I don't know. We could, although I don't know, does the second one have anything to do with prom? Like, I don't think I've ever seen
No.
the sequel. So,
No,
okay.
it does not. It has to do with a house party
Oh, okay.
and many gruesome deaths.
That's a horror
Great,
movie staple, though. That's,
great gruesome deaths. Oh, it's that one's I like it. I like the
okay.
second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so we'll be back soon with our
We
Carrie
will.
review.
Yeah.
Have a great trip to Florida. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then,
Yeah.
but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody, thanks for watching. Have a good almost Halloween. We'll have many more videos before then, but we're getting there soon. All right. Bye, Kim.